Hi, everyone. You're watching episode 96 of Yield TV. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. Today, we will be talking with the co-founder of Alchemix. Alchemix is a newer DeFi protocol. It launched a few months back. It is one protocol that I've personally used. It is all about self-paying loans, and we're going to talk more about like what underpins that mechanism of a self-paying loan. But anyways, it's been a very, very popular DeFi protocol. The last time I checked, there was around 1.2 billion in total value locked. The community is made up of a lot of, I think, very credible, trusted DeFi OGs. And Scoopy Trooples here is one of the co-founders. So we're just really grateful for her time to be able to join us and talk more about really what they're working on at Alchemix. So on that note, Scoopy, welcome to Yield TV. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And yeah, it's funny. We did the usual thing. Scoopy and I talked too much before we went live, and now we're pretending like we're talking for the first time. But Scoopy, what? That's right. Yeah, I'm like we're in the green room normally talking, and I'm like I should save all of this for the actual live stream. But Scoopy, could we start with just your origin story? You know, how did you discover crypto? You know, when did you get into crypto? And I'm curious, when did you start to get involved with DeFi?
Yeah, so it goes a long time back. I think it was in 2011. I heard of like the Silk Road. There was like a bust or something like that. And I saw it on Gawker, and I went to go check it out. And then I downloaded Tor for the first time and went to the Silk Road. I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. And then I went to a site where I could buy Bitcoin. And then I thought, I'm not going to buy Bitcoin. This sounds really dumb.
The most costly decision of your entire life. Like you're like, I'd be on an island somewhere now. You know, if I had just gone against that decision.
I know. I thought it was like, why do I want this silly internet money? And then in 2013, a family member was really encouraging me to get into Bitcoin, and I was like, no, this is a bubble. I'm not going to get into it. And I felt really vindicated after, the bubble crashed. And I was like, see, I told you so. And then came along 2016, and somebody mentioned Bitcoin to me again. I was like, what? This thing's still around? I thought that thing crashed and is dead. And then I kind of gave it a hard look, and I had a little bit of extra money at the time to invest, and I just took the plunge, and I got myself some Bitcoin late 2016. Then I did the thing that everyone else did and played around with, altcoins and Ethereum and ICOs, and I was a genius for all of 2017. And I did really, really well. And then everything came crashing down in 2018. But in 2018, I started messing around with some different dApps on Ethereum. And at the time, there was like no DeFi. Like the dApps it was like CryptoKitties, and then there was like these just degen money games that you could play. And some of those degen money games are really, really cool. Like there's this one that was called FOMO 3D, and it was like weird, like Ponzi / lottery. I mean, even the URL for it was called exitscam.me. So it was like this really kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of play on, all the ICO scams and stuff like that. And like I played that just a little bit, and I thought it was really fun. And then it got me really thinking about like, well, there's lots of cool stuff you can do with programmable money. And I was like, I should learn how to code, because my profession before that was not anything coding related. And so I started learning how to code in 2018. Then I got to be pretty good at it, and was doing jobs doing like making Web 2 stuff. And then in 2020, June 2020, one of my friends I know from the crypto sphere is the CTO of Alchemix, Dr. Derivative. He came up to me, he's like, I know you can do front end development. and I have an idea for a dApp, and I need you to make me a front end. And I was like, oh, awesome. I've been wanting to, build something and get into like dApp development. And that's how, Alchemix got started. Back then, we were called CheeseFi.
I remember that name coming up too. It's funny. I'd love to learn like why you all decided to rebrand, or how you decided to make that change.
Before Yam, before the Nomi rug, before the Yam bug, before the million food clones, we had that idea. And then I was just sort of like, after all these, what happened with the food coins, I was like, I don't think having a food coin is a good idea. Let's come up with a different name. And by that time, our vision for the protocol had changed. We had a couple new developers and a couple new people onto the core team. And while the concept of getting your yield up front was the same, the mechanisms and everything was a lot different. And one of the modules that we had written at the time was tentatively called the transmuter. And so we're just thinking, there's kind of this alchemy theme going on. So let's brainstorm some alchemy related ideas or names. And we came up with like alchemy.money and elemental cash. And then one day in the shower, I was like, well, synthetic tokens and alchemy, synthetic tokens, alchemy. And I was like, oh, Alchemix, Eureka. And then ran up and I was like, guys, we're called Alchemix now. Deal with it.
That's awesome. I can't help but notice there's a lot of influence, I think, in Alchemix from your background farming synthetics. There's I've always thought synthetics had one of the best names in DeFi. Just there's something about the sound of the name with the X at the end, and it draws you in. I got interested in Alchemix, and then I was like, oh, there's some connection from the synthetics community. Okay, this all makes sense. Like ALUSD, like people playing with dollar pegged synthetics and then using that as part of the mechanism. Like it's just it's really cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love synthetics. It was the first dApp that I did yield farming with. There was this godly ETH pool back before the synthetic staking contract was even a thing, and they would airdrop you SNX like every week if you had like enough LP tokens in your wallet. And it was just like, I remember Degen Spartan was shilling it, and I ignored it for a while, and then I was like, oh, his gains are too good, I got to get in on this. And so I did, and I bought synthetics, and I was farming it through the SETH pool and also by minting SUSD. And I was like, this is awesome. This is great. This is like my secret alpha, and nobody else, it wasn't even called yield farming at the time. It was just like, I'm just making money on my money, and it's awesome.
I tried to explain it to some friends, and it really did sound nuts. But once you understood the liquidity mining, you're like, I mean, yeah, I should be rewarded for the fact that I'm providing liquidity that's ultimately enabling this to have a better chance at being successful in the future. But yeah, it's funny, we didn't call it yield farming. We just, I don't know what it was. It was Kane's DeFi playground at the time. We were all just happy to be a part of it.
Oh yeah, I love synthetics. I think it's a brilliant application, especially now that Curve and synthetics are working together, and you can do those synth swaps where like you can go from DAI to SUSD, then SUSD to like SETH, and then SETH to ETH, and it's like there's like no slippage at all. It's pretty amazing. I definitely love that. And then I remember like in DeFi summer when Compound launched, then everyone was saying Compound started yield farm. I'm like, no, it was synthetics.
I did too. I was like, no, this was birthed from synthetics. And it seems so long ago now, because the launching of Compound's liquidity mining program, or their token distribution, whatever you want to call it, that only happened a year ago. We're still less than 1 year from that Compound launch.
That was what, June or something, or June or July is when that happened.
It was I think it was the last weekend of May. just crazy. Yeah, so much has happened in 1 year.
Yeah, then Wifey token came around and Andre changed the game.
Yeah. There were no Yearn vaults. That's a whole nother. The idea you can just deposit money and take advantage of, some really sophisticated DeFi strategies. Actually, if you recall, Scoopy, like at that time, it was a big deal, but it wasn't that big of a deal because gas had actually been pretty reasonable up until that point. But now that gas has become so expensive on Ethereum, there's so much demand for block space. It's so helpful now. A Yearn vault is even that much more valuable to us to not have to do all those transactions, taking profits and compounding the position.
Yeah, for sure. Although recently I've noticed that gas has been cheaper. There's been a lot of this buzz about like flash bots who are taking advantage of like minor extractable value, and how like they're beating out these like arbitrage bots that would do like sandwich attacks and sniper attacks and all sorts of other stuff like that. And apparently it's bringing down gas, and it's been under 100.
I know. Since I think it was last Friday, I started noticing what gas was below 100, and I did a bunch of transactions the other night. It was like midnight where I live. I woke up, I saw it was under 70, and was like, oh my God, I'm gonna do all these things that I've had on like a notepad that I wanted to do for the past several weeks. And so yeah, I don't want to like celebrate too soon, but I'm like, is it possible that like we might have some reprieve, from this? And we'll get to ETH2. Layer 2 solutions are humming along. I think side chains too have really taken some stress off of Ethereum. I think there has been some relief with people moving money on other chains, but this is nuts to be under 100 way. So Scoopy, back then to Alchemix, can you talk to me more about, how do you describe Alchemix to someone who's in DeFi already, but is new to the concept? Like, I guess, what is the mission of Alchemix?
Well, when I was getting into DApp games and stuff like that, I noticed that like these, especially these like degen money games, for everybody who made money, somebody had to lose money. And they're very much zero-sum games, and I didn't really like that, because like even if I made a profit playing it, I kind of felt bad at the end of the day because I realized somebody else got wrecked for me to make a profit. And that was kind of the idea with back when it was CheeseFi, is that like no matter what, you're not going to lose a penny using this application. Like,
right.
You might not profit as much as somebody else, or you might not play it as efficiently as somebody else, but you're not going to lose anything. I mean, unless you're just doing stupid things with your gas and transactions, of course. But and I also got liquidated in a MakerDAO CDP one time, and it was just like crushing. It was like months of synthetics farming gains were just lost in like one moment. I was like, no, this is terrible. I was wondering, is like, how can we make it so that that situation isn't possible? Where you could take advantage of DeFi, where you could get a little bit of extra leverage, but at the end of the day, like you're not going to have much, if any, downside risk at all. And that's when we came up with like the self-repaying loans, the no liquidations, and taking advantage of the power of like the yield aggregators from Yearn in order to power all of this stuff. None of this would be possible unless all the development in 2020 didn't happen. And for that, like, we're really grateful.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, oh shoot. Let me. There we go. Okay, now we're good. Sorry, I changed your mic settings to try to make it to make the sound a little bit better, but I think I screwed it up worse there. Yeah, no, I agree that part of what's working with Alchemix wouldn't have been possible just a year ago. There's a lot there's a lot of concepts in our community with an understanding around what it means, of course, just to farm, but understanding how much more efficient your capital can be. like even just explaining to someone that, hey, so you can deposit your DAI and your DAI is now earning yield. And in the meantime, you're minting a synthetic dollar essentially, and you're able to take that, do what you will with it, very much like synthetics. I think like if I hadn't had experience using synthetics as a staker, probably wouldn't have like fully understood that concept. Just of like, I'm minting the synthetic dollar, I'm helping this derivatives exchange to exist. Similarly here, like we've bootstrapped the liquidity of ALUSD, and as a result of the massive amount of liquidity that's been created for ALUSD, I think it's already. I think already ALUSD. I'm amazed by the confidence the community has in it. I mean, it's holding that dollar peg. As a result of all the mechanisms that underlie it. Which actually, Scoopy, maybe we should talk about that then a moment. What can we talk about? What like why does that peg exist? Why does ALUSD hold the $1 peg so effectively?
Okay, so it has multiple pegging mechanisms. I'll start with the transmuter, which is kind of the primary one that we envisaged as a pegging mechanism. And what the transmuter does is anytime somebody repays their ALUSD debt in DAI, or or yield is harvested from the urine vaults, that DAI goes into the transmuter, and the transmuter is a place where you can stake ALUSD, and then when your position fills up, like basically it'll tell you how much transmutable DAI you have when it fills up. Then you can transmute an equal amount of ALUSD for DAI 1-to-1. So because of that, there's always a guarantee that you will be able to get a redemption 1-to-1 for ALUSD and DAI. Right now, there's around 210 million DAI backing the transmuter. That's actually kind of a funny story. On how that happened is because degens, like the yields were so good for the ALUSD farms at first that people were people were just like straight up buying ALUSD in order to get into it. So a premium kind of emerged where it was like one ALUSD was worth $1 or 1.01 DAI or even more at sometimes. So to arbitrage it, what people would do is they would deposit their DAI into Alchemix, max mint ALUSD, and then there's a liquidate function where you can repay your ALUSD debt using your collateral. And then people would do that, then withdraw their DAI, put it in the curve pool, and then farm with it as a way to arbitrage that difference in price there. And every single time people did this, it would fill up money in the transmuter. So as a result, there's 210 million DAI backing 240 million ALUSD. So it's a lot of liquidity is pegged. And it became so big that we never envisioned that the transmuter would have that much liquidity in it. And so we didn't try to do any yield chasing with the transmuter. DAI being ALUSD staked in the transmuter, that means like that's people who are just basically waiting to transmute their ALUSD into DAI. That's all it is. It's not like a yield generation thing. It's just more of like a way to guarantee the redemption of your ALUSD for DAI.
And Scoopy, can one question on that for newcomers? Well, why would someone why would someone I'm going to throw out the word transmute. Why would I be waiting for my ALUSD to convert to DAI?
So I'm not sure exactly why anybody's in there right now, because right now there's a premium on Curve, like a slight premium. I think that if you sell like 100 or even up to like 1 million ALUSD, you'll get a little bit more DAI than that. But there's a little side effect of the way that we built the transmuter, where let's say that I staked some ALUSD, or let's say I stake 100 in here. That number will pop up here to stake ALUSD. Then I can actually have more transmutable DAI. So if I put 100, I can have more than 100 transmutable DAI. But then when I go to hit the transmute button, only the amount I have staked will get transmuted. The rest will then just be distributed to everybody else in the pool or staking, right? So people could do that. But if you were to have some ALUSD staked in here, and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting, then this number can go up and up and up, and then you can deposit more ALUSD later and then transmute the full balance, whatever is at the transmutable there, a transmutable DAI. So that might be why some people are in there, is because they're planning to do that. But even then, that's not necessary, because if you have excess DAI allocated to you, you will pop up down at this list, in the forced transmute list. And we use the graph protocol here to scan the different addresses in it. And so right now, like, you could click any one of these, and if you do this job, you will force transmute someone else. So their position will be exited, and they'll have DAI sent to their wallet. And in return, all this excess DAI will then be allocated to this position up here for transmutable DAI. So it's pretty instantaneous the way that is right now. You just have to do a little cron job to take care of someone else's position in order to get your position filled immediately.
Interesting. Why don't could you go back to let's show how you actually open up a vault, because I feel like that is, so this is like the most obvious utility of Alchemix, the self-paying loan that I think people really get attached to. So so what do we have here? We're going to open up a loan, and how much do I deposit versus how much I can borrow?
So I have 71 DAI in my wallet right now, not very much. But if I deposit 71 DAI, I then can borrow 35.5 DAI. So it's a 200% collateralization ratio. The main reason we have a collateralization ratio so high for this, even without liquidations, is that we were being mindful of the amount of time it would take for yield to collect versus how much ALUSD is out there. Because if there's too much ALUSD versus collateral earning on it, then it might take too long for your loan to be repaid. Right now, if I were to do this, like have this much put in there, I think it would take maybe a little bit under 2 years for my debt to be repaid using the yield from Yearn, because there's 32%. So that would be, about a year and a half or so for that to be repaid.
Wow. And that's because
then that might be like 5, 6, 7 years if yields go down and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of unreasonable, especially in crypto. So that's kind of why we limited the collateralization ratio the way we did.
Can I ask the follow-up then that let's say that yields do go down. Let's say they go down to right now. Am I saying it correctly that like you have your, let's say I deposit DAI, I'm earning 10.876% on that DAI because of the Yearn Y DAI vault, but then it's an additional 32.393%. Is that how I'm supposed to read that?
Here is 32, because the way we calculate this number here is we take the amount of deposits that are in the vault and the transmitter. So all of that. But since there's around million DAI in the vault, 216 million in the transmitter, we effectively have $385 million in the vault. So like 3x compared to what's in there, and we pass that extra.
Okay, so if I hit on that huge yield that you're earning right now.
So if Yearn was down to 5%, then we'd be probably around 15 or 16% under current conditions, which I think is still something that's very reasonable, and something that we would expect. Your loan repayment time would just take longer, but the system would still work and still function, and the repayments would still happen. It would just be protracted a bit. And if for some reason the peg were to break, there's something else that you can do, is that since DAI and ALUSD are considered the same in the system here, let's say that you sold your ALUSD while it was on the peg, and then it drops down to 90 cents or something like that. Some horrific thing happens, and the transmitter is gone. You can then buy ALUSD off the market at a discount and then repay your loan at a discount because of that. So that is another pegging mechanism in our system as well, is kind of rebate or like discounted debt repayments.
Okay. Yep. All makes sense.
then
Alchemix will be very interesting when on bull market is, you know, when you look to be in something like a stable coin. And so if you're in stable coins, the fact that you can start to borrow yield from the future with Alchemix, I'm making about this before, like there's a lot that more really interesting money. You can, the fact that I can borrow.
The next one up that I think we're going to try to, you know, I think that.
Well, maybe we should talk then.
We did bring a few people over who were interested based on those
in the future.
So we have specific Alchemix themed Starship NFTs that can be used in there. It's a really cool partnership. We made those NFTs for them. Our artist Snape, who's done all of our promotional materials, he made those for Cometh. And the pros of those Starships is 70% buying ALCX off the market, and then Cometh has a Uniswap fork on Polygon called Cometh Swap. So then they take that ALCX that they bought off the market from the NFT sales, and they wrap it into LP tokens.
Wow.
And then the trading fees earned from Cometh Swap are then rewards for playing the Cometh Swap game. And if you haven't tried Matic or Polygon, same thing. The transaction fees are essentially free and they're really fast, so they allow for blockchain gaming and stuff like that. So you can go and yield farm, you know, over there while playing games. So it's a pretty cool app, and we're really happy to have Cometh our little collaboration together.
Really cool. Awesome stuff. Well, yeah. Hey, everyone. You can follow Scoopy here on Twitter, follow Alchemix on Twitter. Make sure you check out Alchemix. You can read all their documentation, learn about the app, play around with the app at alchemix.fi. And thanks for tuning in. This is just the one episode we wanted to do this week. Alchemix, again, has been a really high-profile new DeFi protocol, and we've been really interested at Zapper in it, and just happy we can sort of share more of the story of what you guys are building there. Scoopy, we'll be in a green room in like 2 seconds here. I'm just going to hit the outro video, but everyone, please do try all of the ALCX, ALUSD farming at Zapper.fi, and let us know if you have any feedback or questions on that. So thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks for your time, Scoopy.
Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.